3, 2, 1.
Let's go. All right, this is the
next. I'm keeping that in. I'm keeping the whole thing in there because Paul's Coup is the name of this episode. Welcome to the Thoughts of the Round Table. I'm Matt Rebar.
And I am Paul Laux. Sorry if you hear my computer updating in the background.
Can you just imagine we're talking and it's just like that, like that, like 1999 modem sound just going at it.
I was telling Matt earlier. He called me on Skype and I had my headphones on full blast, and I didn't realize that Skype had that the typical Skype call tune. I didn't realize it had such a nifty bass line in the back, and I finally heard of it.
See, I didn't know it had a bass line, but like I have to listen to it next time because it's like it's the same one that goes like boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. Okay,
yeah. It's got a nifty bass line. Did you see the person who tweeted at Skype and got?
No, what did they tweet at Skype?
This is great. So they tweeted at Skype. I think it was roses are red. Skype is, and Skype responded, Skype is blue, and they responded back to him, Skype blew a 17-year lead to Zoom, and then they got blocked.
Well, here's the thing though, like, why I don't even get why Zoom blew up. Like. Didn't it feel like it came out of nowhere? Or has it been around?
I honestly did. Well, I remember when they first, the pandemic hit and everyone was online. Everyone's like, oh, just call via Zoom. I'm like, what the hell is Zoom? Like, I had never heard of Zoom before. Ever in my life. And then all of a sudden now it's everywhere. And I'd never heard of it.
It's the new thing.
Well, let's see. What year do you think they came out? I'm going to Google right now on the Google machine.
Oh.
What year do you think it came out?
Probably 2007, 2008?
I'm not looking right now. I'm going to say 2009.
Okay. Oh, well, I said 8, 7, 8. You said 9, so.
Let's see. 2011.
Oh. Okay. So it's been around. Okay, I just didn't know because everyone was like Zoom, 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 and I was like, but why? Because there was already Skype and Google Hangouts and stuff, so I don't know.
Well, didn't Microsoft bought Skype? No, doesn't Microsoft own Skype now?
Maybe. That's
I
great question.
They do. I'm like 99% sure.
You might as well just Google that too.
Which is weird because then they also own Microsoft Teams. So
what's Microsoft Teams?
You've never heard of Microsoft Teams? It's a Zoom.
Oh, it's like Zoom for lamos.
It's very business.
Oh, and who has time for that?
For businesses. Also, WebEx.
I've never heard of WebEx. You're like pulling these out of your hat, I swear.
WebEx is literally the worst. That's one. WebEx is most often used by colleges and classrooms until kids found out how to ban their own teachers from the meetings. And so the teachers could never log back.
What's interesting is for my master's classes, we've been doing Zoom. So I don't... Masters.
How's that going, by
the way? It's not too bad. So what's cool about this class is the classes are 8 weeks. So basically I have my one class for 8 weeks and then my second class for 8 weeks. Then I have an intro class that's going to happen this first 8 weeks, but that's been pretty easy. But this class, I feel like it's a lot about structure. And I love anti-structure. I love structure in the ways of like a little order to things, but my professor's really kind of a stickler with structure. So it's been a little difficult, challenging, I would say, in a good way. It makes me have to really think about the structure of storytelling and of writing and of all sorts of things. So yeah, and it's a lot more Catholic than I thought it was going to be. So there's a lot of...
Really? Is it churchy?
A lot of religious parallels and exercises, which, I don't mind a little bit.
Like what?
This week's assignment was I had to listen to, this hour speech about, the Christian as poet, and I have to write a reaction to it. And ironically, Paul, I got to tell you, my reaction's going to be a little harsh because I didn't agree with some things he said. I have a list if you want me to tell you.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Let me pull up my school tab.
I didn't realize I was a Christian college.
So the one thing he said was that it should be a mandate that everyone's a poet or an artist. And I was like, what? I was like, the wheels came down hard on that one.
Not everyone has a creative mind.
I was going to say, not everyone has a creative mind. I'm a firm believer in you can be whatever you want. You can play soccer. You can write poetry. You can, work in business. I'm a firm believer in that. But at the same time, not everyone's going to want to do those things. And I don't think that
Right.
I think what he's trying, I think he's just being overzealous. But like for me, it's like the beauty of poetry is not that like, I guess there's a beauty that everyone can do poetry, but like a beauty is like that you find meaning in poetry, whether that's your poetry or others. So like that's what I don't know. I didn't agree with that. And then he said the best cure for bad media is positive media.
What does he mean by
Like
bad
fake
media?
news or like media that's like not right, like they're reporting lies or whatever. And I was like, no, I think
What is positive
like
media?
good stories, like I like feel good stories,
Like
yeah.
feel good
And I'm
stories,
like,
or like
and my thing is like, no, the best cure for bad media
kind of twisted
is to
logic is
call
that?
out bad media. Like it's not to be like,
Right.
oh, well, that's a lie. So let me go read a story about a fluffy red panda escaping the zoo. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that was a.
it's like, ooh, Trump had some lies in the press conference. Let's talk about this. This snuggle
Yeah,
bear.
it's like, ooh, I don't want to see that bad media. I better go, to the BuzzFeed quiz. And then he said one other thing. This is the third thing that I had an issue with. That was like,
I would have dropped this class like it's hot.
no,
man.
I'm enjoying the class. Really, it's just like this is just like the one assignment. This isn't my teacher. This was like a thing for the assignment. So this was some other guy. So like these aren't the opinions of my professor. Well, I guess my professor thought that the speech was interesting enough to have it be an assignment. So this speech that I'm listening to, third thing, you don't ask your tribe, race, or orientation to give you meaning. You get meaning from Jesus Christ. And I was like,
Wait, say that
basically
again?
he was implying that you don't get meaning, you shouldn't get meaning out of your tribe, race, or orientation, like basically your demographics.
That's what I was confused about. What he meant
Well,
by tribe.
just he's this white privileged guy who's speaking. He's like, and I get like it's like I understand what he's trying to say. He's trying to say, well, everything goes back to Jesus Christ, and like that's where we should strive to kind of get our meaning from, or what have you. But there's a
Were you in a sermon or?
this was like a podcast. I think he gave this speech at like a theologian seminar. The speech that I listened to. It's not my professor. It's a speech from another guy who I have to analyze for this assignment. So I'm writing it off of like basically like if MLK gave a speech and you analyze the speech. That's like the gist. But like to me it's like, well, it's so insensitive because, it's easy for like some basic white guy is to be like, well, yeah, you shouldn't get your faith from being a white or a guy. You should get your faith from Jesus Christ. But it's like but that's not the universal experience. There's plenty of women who get inspiration and meaning from their gender, and plenty of LGBT artists who get their meaning from their orientation, and plenty of black artists. I mean, especially like this year, with Black Lives Matter, I mean, the importance of like the meaning that there is in black lives and black opinions and black ideas. So it just was like, those were three things that I was like, so my response is probably going to be a little, not heated, but I don't know. I was not a fan of the speech. There was one thing I liked about the speech, but like, so I'll make sure to end on that happy note, like a compliment sandwich, like, oh, I liked the time when he said this, but otherwise I just felt like,
and then all negative in the middle.
I just felt like it was very, I don't know. I was expecting more. I really was, but it kind of was like, it just seemed a little judgmental. I think that the tone of the speech seemed judgmental to me almost. I don't know.
It kind of reminds me of those the Catholic schools and how they would always bring in speakers like that, and who would it's always so centric around religion, even though it's the most like random ass topic. Like they could be talking about like the Pythagorean theorem, and we're like, well, Noah used it when he was making the boat. Like they always try to like shoehorn that in.
Well,
there.
And I went to a Jesuit high school and a Jesuit college, and the Jesuits are like the hippies of Catholicism. And so, like, in their culture, in the Jesuit kind of upbringing, it was about action and service. That was the thrust.
Can I ask you a question about that, actually? Growing up in a Jesuit school or, like, school system like that, and I hope this isn't too personal, but I'm curious. Did you come out in high school, or was it, like, did they not?
I was, like, sexless in high school. Like, I was so busy.
Because you said they were the hippies.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Very
pro-LGBT.
I mean, very open to, like, I think most Jesuit, like, priests are very, like, Black Lives Matter, and they're very, like, open and giving and social justice and
because I've heard
oriented.
That.
But and that's the thing. I think a lot of it comes down to, like, who are we to judge? And I think that's a huge part of it. I mean, the action and the service is part of it, but then who are we to judge? And I don't know, because there's some people who in their religion they use it as like as a way to crucify other people. Like, oh, you're doing this? Well, the Bible says this, or I believe this. And it's like, those I think of the best faith are people who can say, here's what I believe, here's what I think. You think differently, you do this differently. Okay, I appreciate having this discussion. Have a great day. Like, have that dialogue of here's what I believe, but like respecting other people's beliefs and other people's, lifestyles, what have you. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me when I think about all the people who are religious who support Trump. Because Trump literally stands.
That baffles me to no end, honestly.
I mean, if you think about what Trump stands for, his entire life has been debauchery and sin and shady business.
He's literally the antithesis of everything like the religion teaches, essentially. And they weirdly try to I swear to God, I no pun intended, I do not understand why the evangelicals grab on him. I honestly don't get it. Maybe they deep down, just since he's their guy, I guess, and on the right side, their kind of hand is forced, and they don't want to see hypocritical. But in a way, that's hypocritical anyway to like him. So I honestly cannot, because I've talked to my couple of friends who are deeply, religious, deeply Catholic, and why they support him, and it baffles my mind. I cannot wrap my head around it. I just
huge
don't understand.
thing. From my understanding, is the abortion. That's a huge topic for evangelicals, and apparently Trump said three times. Yeah, one topic based, and apparently Trump said 3 times I don't like abortion, and that makes him the better candidate than anyone else, which is kind of crazy. But
I feel like if you're one
issue voters,
one issue voters, I feel like that is always the issue. It's always abortion. When someone says I'm a one issue voter, you know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You immediately
there's a great article that I read years ago by Regina Brett that I think summarizes how I feel about it. And she talked about how we need to create a society where there's not really a need for abortion. Better sex
that's the
ed,
goal.
better healthcare systems, better daycare systems, better adoption systems, just make it so that we live in a society where abortion's legal, but it's not happening to the extent that it's happening right now.
Right. Well, let's be honest. No one wants it. No one wants it.
No one's what I crave today? A nice abortion. No one,
right.
Absolutely.
But so the goal is to push it to push it to an area where we don't have to do that anymore. They're just done. They're not a thing anymore because we don't need them.
There will always be
a prevention and
the
health.
The problem is, there's just certain pregnancies where things happen, and that has to happen. It will never not be completely off the table, I think. But
do you want to work toward that? Doesn't
absolutely 100%. I mean, you want to try and minimize, I think, as best you can. But the problem is the people who don't. Here's the thing: people who say that they're pro-life, which ironically, some people who say they're pro-life aren't pro-life, because if you're pro-life, that means you're anti-death penalty. That means you're anti-war. What you're saying is you're anti-abortion. Which I can get why you'd be anti-abortion, but then then you're saying, oh well, I'm anti-abortion, but I don't want people to be educated on sex, and then you're saying I don't want people to receive health care, and I don't want women to receive birth control, and it's it's a complicated slope, my friend. That's what it is.
Yes. It is. So what do you want to do now? Do you want to go into your advice?
I do got a good advice for you if you want to hear it.
Okay, let me start with the news.
Then. Yeah, give me some not the news with you, Paulie.
All right, so this happened somewhere in the South, I think. It was this Taco Bell, and this guy got arrested. This is the stories I miss, man. I wish we could just go back to normal life so we could get more stories like this in the news. But he was arrested because he went through the Taco Bell drive-thru butt naked.
Oh my gosh.
And when they asked him where his clothes was, he goes, well, they're in the washer and I was hungry. So he just took his clothes off to throw them in the washer and just went to Taco Bell in the meantime.
Wow.
And got arrested.
That's ballsy. Literally.
Literally. Have you ever streaked or anything?
No.
Have you ever done anything like that?
Not really. You know why? Because like it's cool for like 5 seconds, and then everything just goes to heck, and then you're cold.
So you
and
have
you're
done it?
No. I'm just saying, like in like when you watch it happen, like someone like races across the football field and they get tackled by security. It's like, whoa, like that dude. Like 5 seconds of him like flashing, and then boom. Like there's just, I don't know. I have considered skinny dipping. I don't know if you have though. Like maybe I'll do that.
There was my wife and I we're going to go to a hot spring, I think in Utah.
Oh.
That I think was it was like private, but it was like clothing optional. I would have probably done something like that. Mm-hmm. Like a nude beach, I'd probably do. I feel like I'd do a nude beach.
Interesting.
But would you do that? You wouldn't do that? You wouldn't do like a nude beach or something?
I gotta tell you, I'm a little self-conscious about my body, and I don't know.
Would you go with somebody you know?
Depends on that relationship, man. That is, I mean, if it's like, hey, what you doing, sister? Like, oh, but I think
like a tertiary friend,
someone who like, God forbid, things go wrong.
What's worse though, doing that with a tertiary friend who you probably won't ever see again, or like one of your best friends who you know you're going to see?
Oh, I'd rather do it with someone who, like, if I needed to drop them as a friend, it'd be easier. So someone in that third, fourth circle of friends is perfect, right?
What? So you'd probably never see him again. So you're like, whatever. Like,
yeah, like just in case it goes bad, you're like,
wow.
well, like, okay, Susie, we had one class together in college. Like, let's go to the nude beach. But, you know, I applaud people of all shapes and sizes who have the audacity to be sexy and to be confident and in their bodies, in their skin, you know, showing it off.
I would probably do it, man. I'm not going to lie to you.
It's hard. It's not easy, for sure.
I know a couple of friends who live in Europe, and they have nude beaches everywhere there because it's not that big of a deal. Nobody really cares in Europe.
But here in America, we're like a weird sexually frustrated teenager who like is really horny, but then like doesn't want to like act on it.
But they said when they were there on the nude beach, they're like, well, first of all, like you have to realize these are people who you don't want to see naked. Mm-hmm. Like they are not the kind of people who. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the people who go to that kind of stuff is not like supermodels.
Well, and that's like the beauty of it is that it almost desexualizes it, you know? Like if you went to these places and you were just like hubba hubba, like then it becomes a violation of sorts. But like if you go and it's just like, yeah, who cares? Tits out, right? Like it just doesn't have that same violation element to it, but I don't know.
All right. Also, did you happen to see that video? I wish I could show video. Maybe we could incorporate that one day. But of that girl who was flying a kite and got picked up and thrown 30 feet into the air end of this kite.
Was it in Thailand or something? Yes, I saw it. She got pulled up on this kite. How is that even possible?
30
what kind of wind is going on?
You know those bouncy houses? Like those big square bouncy house castles? I saw one of those get lifted about 100 feet with a couple of kids.
Oh my God, yes. Like I saw the video too. It's horrifying. It is horrifying.
I'm pretty sure they all were okay because it just kind of floated back down.
It was like the House and Up or something, just kind of like slowly.
They caught the girl though.
Yeah.
She kind of just floated down and they got her.
The interesting video is she comes down and like 40 people just like jumped on top of her. Like it was like a football. Like they were like, get her. Like they tackled her. Oh my gosh.
Skydiving. Would you ever skydive?
I want to. I'm open to it. I mean, I think we're all nervous though. Like if the second parachute doesn't open up, like ooh. But
I know someone who got paralyzed from that, so I'm not doing that ever.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was a second parachute situation. So it was like a second parachute situation.
No, just came in hot, landed on his butt, and yeah. Did not end it well. I mean, he's good now. Like he's a great guy, and he just actually, it's kind of impressive. He just kind of laughs it off anymore. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff, man. Like, because you think about it, like, man, just think about it like this. Say your second parachute doesn't open again. You got a long time to think, man. A long time to think.
Gosh. Ooh, now you have me scared a little bit.
I'm not that crazy. All right, let's get into the device.
Oh yeah, I just have a quick one for you. My new manager, this is askmanager.org, my favorite. My new manager started during the pandemic. Our office is working remote, so we've only chatted on the phone or over email. He seems like a nice enough guy so far. However, last week I woke up to a Snapchat friend request from him. The request came in sometime between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. I feel like it's inappropriate for my 45-year-old boss to add his 25-year-old employee on any social media platform, but Snapchat in particular feels weird. I asked a boyfriend and some friends, and they agreed it was strange. I checked with a coworker to see if my new manager had added him on social media, and no, it was just her. I didn't accept the request.
Yeah.
I haven't said anything to him or anyone at work besides my coworker who's a friend. What should I do? I don't want to make it a big deal, but I do feel a little uncomfortable. And Allison's like, yeah, that's weird. It's Snapchat in the middle of the night. He's a male coworker who's older than you. It's just weird. I'm sorry that that's the case, blah, blah, blah. As for what to do, you can absolutely mention it to him if you want to. Hey, I got your Snapchat request. I really only use Snapchat with friends. Or you can ignore it, which is, or at least should be, a message in itself. You can mention it to other coworkers. It can be useful for other women to know about it in case he's violated boundaries with them. And there's value in bluntly stating this is weird and not feeling like you have to silently wonder about it on your own. Oof. But most importantly, this should significantly decrease or remove any benefit of your doubt if you or the other women give him in the future. So if your manager does something else that feels off with women at work, let this underscore that you don't need to go through the whole plausible deniability dance where you second guess yourself. But maybe he didn't mean it that way. Could I be misinterpreting? If he acts like a creep, it's fair to assume that he's a creep at this point. Ooh. I agree. Like, when have you ever added someone in the middle of the night on Snapchat in a innocent manner?
I don't use Snapchat, so I guess I can't really relate to this one. I'm trying to think of, I mean, I've never just randomly added people. That's never like on Facebook or anything. So that's like, I don't know. I've never gotten into that mindset. I would never do that. Like just somebody, totally random.
It's just so creepy because I think Snapchat, obviously you have the whole sexting element to Snapchat.
Also, yeah, because Snapchat's a little bit different than Facebook. Like, if you were to add like somebody you just met randomly on Facebook, that's not that big of a deal. Snapchat's a little different.
Like, I feel like midnight, 1, 2 a.m. Like, I get you're a late night owl.
Time's irrelevant.
See, I think the time is a little. I agree with you in the sense that it doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't. It certainly looks like, what were you doing at 2 a.m. friending me on Facebook, let alone Snapchat, which I think Snapchat's a more personal. I think it's a more personal social media app, I would say. Facebook and Twitter, they're a little bit more open forum kind of thing, right? I would argue that Instagram and Snapchat, they're a little more like, I don't know. But I do agree. I love her advice though. Like, she's like, listen, do not doubt him in the future. In the future, if he's doing something that's sketchy, well, now you have proof that, like, maybe he is. So
right.
Well, I think this was a cute.
If it was anything,
go ahead.
Ooh, I'd say I think it would a little bit different if it's anything but Snapchat, but it's not. So case closed.
Case solved. Hardy Boys did it again. Well, this was a cute little episode. We got a lot covered. My goodness, we literally, the thoughts of the round table. You never know what to expect.
I learned how to pronounce the word Jesuit. Jesuit.
Finally, one word that I'm not struggling to say. I love it. I dig it. All right, well, until next time.
All right.
Peace out.
Later.